did whop it.
It wasn't me driving.
Hey guys, so today we are going to be working on the Cadillac Ctsv, and we have a new product that we need to install in order to move forward with the progression of adjustable suspension. The first thing to do is to fix the sliding problem that the front lower control arms have on this car. So currently there is no way to adjust for camber or for caster on this car. It is just two large slots on the subframe, and the arm is free to slide in and out. And basically what GM did was put these locking style bushings on the control arm, so when you tighten it, it won't move easily, but if you try to race these cars, they will for sure move. And the arms, what happens is they slide in, you lose your alignment, you lose your toe, you lose your caster. So it's really important that we came up with a solution. Currently, there was no solution. Literally none. Everyone that I saw on forums was using Norlocks. They were buying special washers to get more torque. They were over torquing. They were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. We actually even saw that a subframe had a slight crack in it on one car, possibly from maybe over torquing. We don't know. So either way, a solution needed to be made. And the solution that I came up with was these washers that look something like this. The R stands for rear, and that just means the rear of the control arm. So basically how they're gonna work is this washer fits onto the subframe, and you reinstall the factory bolt. And using one of these three holes, we're gonna drill a hole using a 1/4-inch drill bit and a 90-degree drill. This is important. This is the only thing that's gonna be able to fit up in there. We're gonna drill one of these holes when the alignment position is maxed on the inward direction. We'll show you this on the process. We're going to use these bolts as a pin that's going to be installed through the plate and through the subframe, through the hole that you just drilled, with a nut on the back. And what this is going to do is it's going to prevent the alignment from moving. And once you've drilled one hole, you'll be able to use one of the three positions after you've drilled the hole, and it's going to give you basically a 3-position range. There may be need for adjustment to be between the holes. It's kind of one of those, this is the solution that needs to happen, and there isn't too many other options to have more alignment settings. Like if I needed to be somewhere between, you're just gonna have to utilize the front and the rear slot to go in the first hole on the front and maybe in the second hole on the back to get the right caster, if you do need to do an adjustment like that, or if you want to run more caster or something. But this is going to give you a much better system than the original ever was anyways, and this is going to be a sure way to lock in your alignment so that nothing moves during hard driving and even during regular driving. It's easy to install. I'll show you how to do it here in a second. It's going to be relatively affordable, and it's really going to solve everyone's problems with this chassis. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so to begin, you're going to need the following tools to do this install. First is the 22 mil, which is going to be used to take off the wheels. A 21, this socket is going to be used on the control arms and on some of the larger nuts that are used for the ball joint and stuff. 18 millimeter is your calipers. The 13 millimeter is going to be used for the bearing bolts, and the 10 millimeter is going to be used on anything small like the wheel speed sensor. Next, you're going to want to get a panel popper. This is going to be used for the plastic clips. I then have a 21 wrench to grab onto the other side of the bolts, and a 24 millimeter to grab onto the other side of the larger bolt on the lower control arm. And then a crescent wrench. This is just in case I need to hold on to something. You're also going to need an Allen key or Torx set, and this is to hold some of the ball joints if the nut's spinning. You can stick an Allen key in the ball joint's shank and unthread the nut that way. Sometimes the taper is enough to hold itself in place where the nut just spins off freely, but you're going to need an Allen key set handy, a metric set. But that's pretty much it. I have a snap-on impact to drive all of my sockets, a wrench to do the other side of it. So other than that, to reinstall stuff, you're going to need a torque wrench to torque everything to factory spec, because on this install, we are just using all the factory bolts again. All we're adding is a lockout plate. The first thing to do is take off the wheels. I just zip tied the caliper over out of the way so that I'm not putting any stress on the brake lines. Here we're going to want to grab our panel popper. Hopefully they think we're listening to the radio and that we didn't actually pick this music. So we now can see all this beautiful mess that we have to fix. I'm gonna crack these loose and show you guys what happens during hard driving. You can already see the slot there though. Okay, so I cracked the bolt loose. As you can see, with it loose, it has a lot of movement. Obviously, when it's tight, it's not this bad, but under hard driving, this has nothing preventing it from sliding other than the friction from the torque on the bolt. That's probably why they made this bolt an M16 instead of the usual GM bolt size, which is an M14. With that said, we're gonna take these out and fix this problem. Okay, your control arm is completely removed. To do this install, we're gonna wanna take it right out because it's gonna make it a lot easier to get the tools that we need in there. After taking the control arm off, we can now start looking at the washers. These are labeled F for front, R for rear. All that means is that these go on the front, and the reason why they're labeled is because the front uses an M14 bolt, and the rear of the control arm, which would be the back side, uses a 16 millimeter. So the bolt will physically not go through if you use the front one on the rear, okay? So with that in mind, all we need to do is install these onto the outside of the subframe. We're gonna use the factory bolt to hold it in place, tighten it in, and then I'll show you guys where you need to drill the hole. Okay, I'm just gonna leave that loose and install the back one as well. I'm going to snug up the bolts so that I can still move the plates, but it keeps it tight against the subframe. So what you want to do is slide the bolt and the spacers all the way back into the slot, and then rotate these plates until they're level. And what you're going to find is that the plate is going to contact the backside of the subframe where it has the machined relief cut, and that is right where you want the plate to be. So you can feel that it's now touching the back, and then just make sure the bolt's all the way back. So you want the spacer to be touching the subframe, and then you want the bolt to be as far back in the slot as it can go. The hardest one to drill is going to be this plate, and we'll kind of show you how to do it. It is tricky. The other ones are all really easy, except for this one. It's just part of the challenge. So let's start by drilling this one. Okay, so with the plates snugged into place, I tighten this bolt a little bit just so the plates won't move. You want to drill the closest hole to you, because what this is going to do is it's going to put a hole in the subframe, and with that you're going to be able to use a pin in this location. You'll be able to pull the pin out, slide the bolt outward and put it in the second hole, and then you can do the same and put it in the third hole, and that's going to give you your 3 positions of adjustment. So make sure you drill the hole in the closest hole to you, furthest outside. Install the pins. I'll crack this bolt loose. Okay, so now that the bolt's cracked loose, you can see it's not allowed to move in and out. But I can pull the pin, I can slide it all the way, and I can reinstall the pin in the furthest back hole, reinstall it in the furthest back hole, and we have the same amount of locking, and we're able to lock the bolt in place in its furthest outward position, and then we can also pick the middle position in the slot, and we can lock it in place in the middle as well. So there's always going to be the slightest amount of play. There's no way to get around that, but with the torque applied, it's moving less than like a mil or two. It's going to be a lot better than it was. You're not going to be able to slide because you're going to have to rip this pin out in order to change the alignment. So we're going to do that on the front, and that will complete the installation of these lock plates that do have 3 positions of adjustment. All right, so this one is very tricky, this back hole here. There is no way to drill it from this side or from this side, so we actually have to go through this hole that we just made, stick the drill bit out as far as we can. We have to put this lock plate on the inside of this ear and blast through it from this end. I'm gonna do that for you guys. We're gonna be holding it in a very unique fashion. I'm going to install this bolt through the slot, and I'm going to thread this nut on as much as I can. It will start to bind because these are a lock nut. So I'll use this wrench. I want to go to the point where I can still pull it out, but I'll be able to get a nut on the back. Take my plate, which is supposed to go on the outside, and I'm going to put it on the inside. I'm going to use this bolt to pinch it in place in the furthest back position like we talked about. And the only problem here is we don't have a reference for the machined edge like we did for these ones, because the machined edge on the inside is much further. But the way that I designed it is that these 3 holes are going to be perfectly level. So we're going to stick the drill bit through here, line it up with this hole by looking from underneath, get it to the best position that we can, and drill the hole there and line it up there. So we want to make sure that the drill bit's level this way and that it's also square this way. And when we find that position, we're just going to tighten that nut down and drill away. Okay, so just to explain further, this bolt is the factory bolt that goes here. This is the factory nut. And then I just stole this nut from the sway bar, which you have to take off the knuckle anyways. So you will have that nut to use. So we can pretty much install these plates fully at this point. So just to make things easy on us, we'll probably slide this bolt in just so we know where the plates are locked in, and we'll snug these up. So these plates aren't going to be flopping around on us when we go to put the arm back in. And you simply reinstall the arm the same way you took it off. Not a hammer. And that's it. Reinstall everything the same way that you took it off, torque everything back to factory spec, and you have officially locked out the horrendous slots that constantly lose your alignment on your CTSV. On the next episode, while I'm in here, we're going to be installing the angle kit. The angle kit looks like this. It's got our tie rod adapter, beautifully machined 7075 aluminum, stainless steel washers, alloy steel adapter, the lower control arm that starts at 30 millimeters longer than factory, and you can adjust an additional 25 millimeters from there. On-car adjustable caster with the lockout plates that we just installed. We're going to easily be able to lock out and leave alone these bolts as if it was just a through hole, and we'll be able to make all of our adjustments using this on-car adjustable caster option. Okay, lengthen, shorten, got our factory ball joint, stud in place, got our bump stop. It's a beautiful thing. And you guys will be seeing us modify the sway bar, because at a lot of angle, the sway bar is the first thing to be hit. So if you guys want to see this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel. It really helps us stay motivated to keep doing this for you guys. And we'll see you guys in the next video.